A story of Michael's transformation, the pearl of adversity. There once was a man named Michael, a man who knew suffering far too well. Life had not been gentle with him. His world, once steady and bright, had shattered into 1,000 irreparable pieces. It began with a loss, one so deep it carved a hollow space in his chest. His business, his life's work, crumbled overnight. The people he trusted vanished when he needed them most. Financial ruin loomed over him like a gathering storm. And just when he thought life could not take more out of him, it did. His father, his mentor, his unwavering rock, passed away. Michael stood in the quiet of his apartment, staring at eviction notices, unpaid bills, and the echoes of a life he no longer recognized. There were days he couldn't move, nights he couldn't sleep. A weight pressed against his ribs, a grief so heavy he wondered if he would ever breathe freely again. But pain is not without purpose. Somewhere beneath the crushing despair, a small ember of defiance burned. One evening, he found himself sitting by the ocean, watching the waves collapse against the shore. His father used to bring him there as a child, telling him stories of resilience, of strength. And then, as if carried by the wind, a memory surfaced. His father's voice, deep and sure. "Son, do you know how a pearl is formed?" he asked. Michael closed his eyes, remembering. A pearl begins as an irritation, a wound. A grain of sand or a parasite finds its way inside an oyster's shell. The oyster, small, vulnerable, has no way to rid itself of the invader. But it doesn't surrender to the pain. No. It fights in the only way it knows how. Layer by layer, it coats the intruder with nacre, turning the source of its suffering into something rare, something priceless. What was meant to harm it becomes its greatest treasure. Michael opened his eyes. For the first time in months, he inhaled deeply. And with that breath came a realization. He had been given his grain of sand. The world had forced adversity upon him, but he had a choice. He could let it break him, or he could build something beautiful from it. That night, he made a decision. No more drowning in sorrow. No more waiting for life to show him mercy. Brick by brick, layer by layer, he would rebuild. The days ahead were not easy. He took jobs he once would have overlooked, working tirelessly to regain his footing. He studied, trained his mind, trained his body, and fed his spirit with wisdom and surrounded himself with people who uplifted him. He embraced discipline, early mornings, late nights, and an unwavering commitment to becoming something greater than the man who once stood on that edge of despair. And then, like the pearl, his transformation became visible. New opportunities emerged from his relentless effort. The failures of his past no longer defined him, they refined him. His pain had not been in vain. It had shaped him, strengthened him, polished him into a man of unshakable purpose. One day, as he stood in front of an audience, sharing his story, he saw it. The spark in their eyes. People who were drowning in their own storms, weighed down by their own adversity, suddenly saw hope reflected in his words. In that moment, Michael understood. His suffering had not just built him, it had built something far greater. A movement. A collective of resilient souls, bound not by perfection, but by perseverance. The pearl-minded. So now, to you, the one listening, the one feeling the weight of your own struggle, I ask you this. What will you do with your grain of sand? Will you let it wound you? Or will you embrace the struggle, coat it in resilience, and turn it into something rare, something priceless? Your adversity is not your end. It is your beginning. It is your pearl in the making.